Human Resources and former Dean of University Malaya's Economics Faculty. He also can bring us a lot of experience from his political arena.
One, of course, the numbers. Now, the Prime Minister mentioned, of course, that we have already managed to reduce by 10 basis points the deficit. I think this is quite an important trend. First step is quite a bit of a giant leap to be able to begin at last to reduce the fiscal deficit. In terms of the numbers for growth, I know the best way to describe where we are is that it's not rip-roaring. It's not rip-roaring. We are on an even keel, okay? We are on an even keel. And as you can see from the Q4 GDP growth, last year there was a fear that GDP might stutter. But in the third and fourth quarters, GDP picked up a bit. And although the number is lower than the previous year, you can see that that pickup is a trend that will continue into this year. And I think this year, we expect an average growth of over 5% because the external economy is improving, actually. There are signs of better growth in the US, in the UK, and even to some extent EU. 0.1%, I know it sounds very little, yeah? 0.1%. But, you know, after all the dark days that they've been having, there is this prospect of growth. And the IMF forecasts global growth this year, 2014, at 3.7%. And next year, 2015, at 3.9%. And so even the understated IMF is now talking about, is the tide rising? And so there are chinks of light. And it is expected that domestic growth, while it continues to drive the economy, might take second place to external demand this year. So growth is good. Not superb, but good. And then if you look at the current account surplus, of course this has been seesawing. Yeah? It has been seesawing. There's a lot of fear that it was narrowing. But you can see from the last bar, it has moved forward. And with the expectation that external demand is going to be greater, although China is flattening around about 7 to 7.5, there is every prospect that we will keep our current account surplus, in surplus. Then, if you look at the next slide on FDIs, I mean, FDIs are very strong and consistent. In 2013, it totaled 38.7 billion, which is an increase of 24% from 2012. And it exceeded the highest ever recorded foreign investments achieved, which was in 2011 of 37.3 billion. And all sectors of the economy registered increases in FDI inflows. And the investments of the FDIs were mainly in manufacturing, services, and the mining subsectors. And now let's look at the next slide, our reserves position. It's also extremely strong, despite emerging market capital outflows. The international reserves amounted to 132.3 billion as of February this year. And this is sufficient to finance 9.2 months of retained imports, which is a very strong position. It's coming to 10 months, actually, the last numbers indicate, of retained imports. And it is this is quite important, against outflows that could take place. It's 3.4 times the short-term external debt. So things are moving in the right direction. Not rip-roaring, let's be clear about this, but it is solid. It is solid. And our positive rating outlook of A3, sovereign rating, stands a chance of upgrade. And Moody's has actually just revised the outlook to positive from stable. Of course, this means that, lower borrowing rates, which is good for the economy. The sukuk market is growing pretty fast. We are almost 70% in 2012 of total sukuk issuance of about $140 billion. So it is good. Now, of course, people will say numbers, positive or not, what do I care if prices are rising, right? Now, the answer is, well, if all these things turn negative, we might be out of a job, okay? We might be out of a job. The ringgit will come under attack. Investment will not take place. Asset values will fall. Banks will get into trouble. Loans will be recalled. So it is important that we keep up. These numbers are not meaningless. They're very important numbers for real people in the real economy in terms of the jobs that they have. It is therefore critical that the government shows fiscal discipline, which is what the Prime Minister said he was doing, a true commitment to address the deficit, and does not waver under pressure. People are watching. Markets are watching. So whatever else may be said about Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib, he's actually the first to address the deficit in a very long time. And it already shows a positive outcome, I said, in the 10 basis points decrease in the fiscal deficit. It may seem a small number. It's a giant leap for Malaysia. For the longest time, previous administrations had been talking about reducing deficits, been talking about reducing subsidies, has been talking about the GST, but nothing had been done. So now something has been done. And it matters because it means confidence, investment, growth, and jobs. Now, what the government has failed to do, I'll conclude very quickly. What the government has failed to do, Prime Minister talked about communication plan. What it has failed to do, I think, is that it has not been effective and credible enough in its communication plan. Because people now don't want to believe what they see in the conventional media. That's a problem. They want to believe everything they see in the social media, but not everything they get on the convention. It's a serious problem because you can try to counter in the social media, but the conventional media also is important. TV, newspapers. Whatever the good numbers, people don't want to believe them. They would rather believe everything they read in the social media. A credible conventional media is in the national interest. And we have to revitalize and revive this. We cannot continue to have a media that is not believed. It hurts our country because people refuse to see the good as they believe none of the bad is ever add. No balance, which is the reality of life. There must stay balance. Of the economy, we talk about need for balance. Everything must be balanced. Now, if I told a housewife coming out of a shop at Bangsar Village, inflation is only 3.4%. Those are the figures in February this year. She'd take the timun from the bottom of her basket and hit me over the head, because the price of timun has risen more than that. So people must be educated about what is general price increase, what are particular price increases, what constitutes a CPI, and then told why prices are increasing, what will happen. However, they must also be told what will happen if we sit on our hands and did nothing about the government deficit in understandable terms, and also must be told when all this bit of problems and bother that we are going through will result in a bigger economic gain in the future. This is a communication plan that must reach the people in a credible and effective manner. That still remains to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
For this morning's short talk, I will focus on I will not talk anything outstanding. I will focus on the gap between policy and implementation, and what my observation is at the end of the presentation. Now, as an example, we know that there's always been a strong correlation between the growth of the nation and the growth of the small and medium enterprises. In fact, over the period 2006 to 2013, there's practically 90% correlation between the growth of the nation and the growth of SME, underlining the fact that SME serve as the underpin of the nation. As an example, in 2011, there were a total of 663,000 business enterprises, of which 645,000 or 97% are classified as SMEs. Therefore, SMEs do drive the nation's economic growth. Nevertheless, we find that there is a strong gap between understanding of government policy and policy formulation between the SMEs and the government. This is demonstrated in a recent survey among SMEs that was conducted specifically to assess the understanding, that was before the electricity hike, conducted in December last year, the overall electricity supply situation, the overall energy policy planning, and particularly the impact or understanding or acceptance of the recent tariff hikes. The survey was conducted among 244 establishments, predominantly in the Klang Valley area, and it was conducted among both services and in the informal sector. In other words, hawkers and so on, they serve as the mouthpiece of the government, because it is from there that you get all the rumors and all the spreading of the messages and so on and so forth. The location from Mangsa Maju to Kajang to Klang to Rawang and so on, but it is in Klang Valley. The question we ask, for example, electricity tariffs have risen by an average of 15%. Do you think this is reasonable? Of course, 94% disagree. They think that it's not reasonable. How much do you know about the incentive-based regulation, that is an incentive accorded to TNB on the basis of which, in accordance with efficiency, they could raise their rates? 91 of them do not know. Have you heard of feed-in tariff? 77% have not heard of it. Do you think the government has done enough to inform you of the hikes? 73% say no, they have not done enough. Well, what I'm trying to say is that most of these establishments are in Klang Valley, near the heart of the nation, and overwhelmingly, none of them claim they have any understanding of the government policies or or even heard of what the government intend to do. So therefore, there is a wide gap between policy direction, formulation, and understanding of SMEs amongst the SMEs. Basic items such as tariffs, what more policies like GST, minimum wage, subsidy rationalization, and so on. On the part of government, is not due to lack of program, but actually we find that there is a big mismatch between policy formulation and delivery. Amongst the SMEs, for example, we have lots and lots of programs. If you go to Bank Negara, lots and lots of programs. Enrichment and enhancement program, Sharia compliance, SME financing, soft loans for SME emergency fund, enabling e-payment, and so on and so forth. You go to Bank Negara, you see 101 programs. But at the grassroots level, none of them understood, none of them know that it existed, and they don't even know what to do when they're in trouble. Therefore, my punchline for this presentation is that we have enough of new ideas, new policies, new plans. What is needed is reorientation of our governance system from one focusing on planning to outreach. plans, we have all the plans, we have new economic models, we have 5-year plan, midterm review, yearly review, this, that, but none of them seem to have gotten out. What we need is a new mission of service delivery with KPIs based on grassroots understanding and acceptance. I must mind you that over the period of 1960s to 1980s, we have been very successful in outreach, particularly in modernization of our agriculture. We have been very successful in transforming rubber, in modernizing oil palm as a small-scale crop. And how do we do it? We do it through agriculture extension workers, where the extension workers actually go down to the grassroots, teach the farmers how to plant, how to re-annihilate their lots, and so on and so forth, literally hold them by a fence. What we need is to expand our outreach programs to disseminate the message and the mechanisms of the new policy. Really, what we need is to get our officers away from the aircon officers down to the grassroots. That's what we need. And we need to do this through person-to-person contract, at household meeting, town hall meetings, etc., through involvement with the guilds, trades, associations, and the NGOs, through radios and TV, over mobile services, through SMS, through interactive mobile delivery services where the stakeholders can query them, can query you, query the government officers over the mobile, and they can get answers. And of course, over the internet. We need to modernize our traditional outreach mission so that all the plans that are formulated in EPU, they formulate the Bank Negara, and formulate the Ministry of Finance, get down to the grassroots and be utilized. We don't want to see 10 million be allocated, but at the end of the year, only 1 million spent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Basically, your message is for the policy makers to turun padang, lah, you know. This brings us to the common Malaysian adage that in Malaysia, we have one of the best policies, but when it comes to implementation, we are not A grade. Okay? So we go on to Tan Sri Sulaiman from MIER to give his presentation. Tan Sri.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Mr. Mikhail, fellow panelists. I don't have any slides to give, but I'm going to do something different today. The numbers are good given by Tan Sri Munir. The study and the presentation by Tan Sri Fong is also good. And we have all good numbers. We heard all this morning from the Prime Minister himself. But there's one thing we forgot. We forgot. This country is a different country now. We have too much politicking. Too much politicking. Whatever we do will be undermined by a lot of politicking in the country. I'm so sorry. I need to say this. Our children want good education. Our youth want good jobs. Our parents want, a healthy living standard. But there's too much politicking in the country that derail all our policies that we mentioned just now. And that is the reason. Let's face it. Let's call a spade a spade. I want to say this, we have the best policies, but there are always forces that will try to undermine our policies through the process of politicking. I don't know how, I'm not taking any side. Please go back and let's minimize politicking in this country. We want to live, we want to be united. We have a mission to accomplish, and the mission is not accomplished yet. We have, our aspirations are derailed because of this thing. So I think it's very important that this subject is addressed, face it squarely by the horn. I don't know, I'm just appealing to all leaders of this country, address it because my children want to grow, my grandchildren also want to get good jobs and get good education. Old folks want good facilities, health, but I think there are a lot of these forces at work and it's undermining us. Let's face it, I wanted to say it, I haven't said this before. I hope you all share with me. And we have a very challenging global environment. I asked this to the Prime Minister just now. And the importance of global environment is that it always adds easily 2% of our growth. But it's very challenging, very slow and modest recovery in Europe. Munir talking about 0.1 to 0.2% Eurozone. US talking about 2 to 3%. Other countries like India, China also moderating because of the high inflation. So I think the international environment is very challenging. And in that context, you've got to find a niche, find a space to export our products and services. It's going to be very challenging, and that is something that I think all our economic players in the country must address. Yeah? And the Prime Minister alluding to the fact that the importance of productivity. And I think our productivity is still very far behind Singapore, very far behind Korea. Again, that is something that, what's wrong with it? Yeah? We have given a lot of incentives in terms of tax holidays from MIDA. First 5 years, next 5 years, another 5 years we sambung. Kita bagi R&D allowance, kita bagi, we give training allowance, and sometimes even give cash grant. And yesterday I saw on TV, I hope I'm wrong, there was a launching of this factory, they call it, apa tu, buat thread, making thread. I don't know, I forgot the English word for it. You saw a weaving thread, you know, that's in Johor Bahru. That was in the 60s when I was in Form 4, Form 5. Why are we going back to those industries? I just know what's happening. Are we going back? Are we digress? You know, are we going back to the old industries? This is because we have been too far and too long dependent on low-cost economy, low-wage economy. I hope you'll share with me. We're too dependent on low-wage economy, too low-cost economy. We're getting unskilled workers from neighboring countries, and our people are not getting a job. Something is wrong somewhere. Government has given all the incentives that you want. Our gas is subsidized. Our transport is subsidized. But we are not getting the value added that you should get. I'm so sorry what's happening. Please share this with me, because I was chairman of MIDA before. I always quarrel with my officers that you're giving incentives to those people who are just bringing low quality investments. I think this is a very important point. We have been belaboring too much on low skill and low wages, and now it's very difficult to come out. What we are propagating now is what was shrugged away by Singapore in early 90s. Something you've got to address. And we're talking about moving forward high income economy. It's going to be based on value addition. How do we value add? How do we value add? It depends on productivity, yes. Quality, yes. Others, I don't know, intellectual property, intellectual asset development. These are the things we've got to move forward. And if you look at the industries, that value addition is very small. Electronics is only about 15%. So we're talking volume. It's a volume game, it's not a value game. I hope our economic players here, you people are here, please think about it, reflect this in your institutions. So it's very important to address this question of productivity value addition, because we want to take a high income, we want to achieve high income model. But after it was announced 4 years ago, there was no discussion on high income model. Had I been given a second chance to question the Prime Minister, asking what happened to our high income model, new economic model, has it been derailed? There's no discussion. I'm worried. I think this is something that we've got to discuss. I hope as you take up this matter. So, where are we? Are we going to go back to the thread factory again? It's on there. It might as well send them to Bangladesh. There's so much unemployment there. Why is coming here? Yeah? And the other thing I wanted to say is that the current context now, capital have flown back. Yeah? Net capital outflows now gone back to other parts of the world because of these quantitative easing is tapering. So, effect on our stock market, yes. There's a lot of greater protection now, and onshoring of activities, economic activities, means the activities are going back there because the economy is doing badly, so they got to push up the economy, so investments are going to be there. How are we going to challenge? In all these things, you've got to find a niche to ensure that the economy grows, be above 5%. And we are so used to 7% growth, we are so used to high income, we are so used to subsidy and this sort of thing. But moving forward, for a country like Malaysia, there will be a lot of challenges. I just want to alert this. The rest, I think all the studies are given by Tan Sri Munia. I don't want to talk much. I hope you share with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Yeah, Tan Sri, I would agree with you that sometimes the incentives given by the government are not taken up or not too encouraging. But I have to disagree with you slightly that while many might say that there's too much politicking in Malaysia, foreign observers say that there is nothing more interesting than politics in Malaysia. It's the most interesting politics in the world. Now we go to the Q&A session.
Chairman and the panelists, I must say it has been very, very refreshing morning listening to the PM, who's also Minister of Finance. I was not sure whether he talked as PM or as Minister of Finance. But we had a very clear insight as to his thinking. Now the topic here, moving the Malaysian economy forward, getting to the heart of the matter. Frankly, I don't believe we have got to the heart of the matter. Such distinguished panelists, but I must say your questions were a bit placid. So let me ask you the question which I think you should have asked the PM, which is, we are caught in the middle income trap. We are not adjusting to a firm, proper, long-term strategy of sustainability. True, I agree with you all that the economy, the report card is pretty good now. But what are the issues? You know, as economists, you're governed by your environment. Economy cannot thrive, cannot prosper, as we say, looking at the economy ahead, if the environment, political, social, religious, is not right. And we are facing, to my mind, critical times. Don't you think that in the interest of socio-economic, political sustainability, there should be bolder strategies to break out of the economic trap, middle income trap, and two, to bring about a greater sense of social stability through a more aggressive approach against extremists in our country? Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Tan Sri, you want to...
Thank you. Thank you, Tan Sri. Of course, we all agree that for a country to be prosperous and to maintain or sustain its growth, you need a supporting domestic and international environment. I would say that in the midst of a very uncertain international economic environment, it's all the more important we should create a very stable economic environment within the country itself. The social-political issues, the religious issues need to be resolved, and they have to be resolved wisely. Of course, it's not at the ambit of this forum, wisely at the political, at the parliamentary level, and which we could deal with in other forums. I think, having said that, fundamentally, Malaysia's economic fundamentals are strong. There's no question about that. We are blessed with a stable economic environment which is not subjected to violent calamities, and people can plan their economic livelihood over a long period of time and not be worried that it may be wiped out by volcanoes or huge floods and so on. So we do have a sustainable economic plan. If we can get all our other acts together, of course, we'll be much, much better. But having said that, we have been operating fairly successfully under the circumstances. I wish we can do better, but I'm a retired politician, so I will not comment any further than that. Thank you, thank you.
I will stand when I address Country Raymond. I think you look at India, you look at Mexico, you look at Brazil, of course you look at Russia. Now you see emerging market economies, which are supposed to be BRICS or semi-BRICS, now collapsing because of failure to address fiscal, financial issues. So I think in terms of priority, this is where we should first address and put our resources into addressing. And I think the government's priority in that regard is correct. But things are moving and changing. And looking ahead, even if we got involved in the TPP, which is supposed to be moving countries up the scale, there are three things in the TPP which probably might be non-negotiable insofar as Malaysia is concerned. One, we are supposed to give up currency controls, exchange controls, the thing that we used in 1998 to protect ourselves. This is a measure of a more advanced economy. Can we afford to do that? Especially when the Fed says they only make decisions based on their domestic economic needs, not the emerging market company needs. So to move forward, are we willing to do this or not? Okay. Second, we have state-owned enterprises. We have so many GLCs, and we have Khazanah. We're supposed to diminish them and move them out of the market. This is a massive section of the corporate sector, a massive section of employment. What do we do about it? It's not something we can willy-nilly do. Of course, third and most fundamentally, I think something dear to your heart and mine is the new economic policy, procurement policies. It is one of the things we can discuss about, intellectual property, we can, discuss about medicines and so on. Those can be negotiated. There are some things which are really rock solid. But those are precisely the things that are needed to move forward, moving forward. And our economy is in a situation where the priority, I think, at the moment must be the fiscal and financial sector repair. I think we haven't done it for a long time. If at the same time you're trying to do the socio-economic policy repair work, go straight into the NEM with vigor, I mean, politically, I think it might be difficult. Even if you stated that you had a plan to do so, you know how Malaysia is, or any country, there will be objections, which will make your first objective, fiscal consolidation, even more difficult to achieve. Therefore, I would take a more prudent approach and say we have to address this. Okay, in the meanwhile, we can do things like in education to address the moving forward, sort of going up the scale bit. But we also have to be realistic, I think.
Okay, thank you, Tan Sri. I think basically Tan Sri Ramon wants holistic development. Can I have one person here first, then I'll go second and third there. It's getting hot now. Okay. Tan Sri Aziz.
Aziz Rahman from Afim Bank. I'm very impressed with Dr. Chan's comment on the failure to reach out, pertaining to all the facilities that the government has so far, especially in terms of funding to the SME and the microeconomic sector. And this has been going on for years. I understand a lot of money is lying around there and not being tapped. And yet we are crying to create this middle class group of people in order to create democratically stable nations such as Malaysia. Is there any plan to have a one-stop agency? I think we should suggest it to the government. We have got Pemandu, we've got everything else. But we don't have anybody to sit down, one person, to look at all these facilities and create the extension offices to go throughout the country and sell these ideas and train these entrepreneurs and get all the facilities for them. Number two, is there any impact study done, especially on the increase in the minimum wage from 450 to 900, when paradoxically there's no enhancements of productivity? You increase the salary up to 900 minimum wage, and the amount of this money aided to the system has been sent out to all these other countries that are sending the workers here by the billions. So where is the success of increasing, enhancing the minimum wage? No productivity, and the same amount of money, if not more, has been repatriated. Thank you.
So a central body and productivity. Tan Sri Sulaiman, like to try that?
Mr. Human Resources.
Thank you. No. The first point about the closing the gap between what has been planned and what has been delivered, actually, that problem has been with the Malaysian government, I think, since the 1990s. I want to emphasize two facts. In the 70s, 80s, when we modernized agriculture, we were very successful, converting rubber to oil palm, making oil palm a small space from a plantation crop to a small scale cash crop. How did we do it? Extension workers who went down to explain. And in a more modern Malaysia, you find that there's a huge reorientation. I'm sure all of us know that, in the banking industry. In the old days, the bank manager in the town is like a king. Every businessman go to him to get loan and all that. Visit the bank, go to him, you got to queue up, you got to wait, you got to make appointment. Now, bank managers in SS2, in C Park, Paramount Garden, they come to see you. They visit shop by shop. Hey, do you want a loan or not? I got this allocation, I want to give it to you. This outreach. And it can be done. It actually can be done, just whether the civil service, I was talking this topic under a wider ambit of reorientation of civil service, which will be a topic, another time. But the whole emphasis of our governance system need to be changed. One from planning to one from getting out the plans, ideas down the road, so that they can be, it can be materialized. And Malaysia, unfortunately, over the last 20 years, we have been failing that. We have been lacking that. There is no KPIs for government servants in terms of getting their ideas through, getting their plans accepted. The second question with regard to minimum wage, I must say that there are various ways of implementing minimum wages. Singapore, through the National Council discussion. Malaysia, we do it under legislation. And I do agree that it has to be linked to productivity, and there should be a lot of baseline study done. And unfortunately, Malaysia's problems is we are amplified by the fact that over 3 million of our workers are actually foreign workers. And it means that there's a tremendous outflow of funds. International norms prevent us from discriminating between foreign workers and local workers. So there's no way that we can distinguish. I was going to pose a question to the PN just now, whether we could have some kind of relief measure for enterprises who are overburdened with the minimum wage. Some countries have that, in the sense that in the interim period, the extra wages incurred as a result of the legislation, the government offer incentives through the form of double tax deduction or through the form of assistance in other ways. I think this could be one of the things that the government can look at. In other words, when you pay a local worker a minimum wage, the quantum of the wage increment can be offered some kind of relief. That will give encouragement, incentive for Malaysian employers to employ local workers over foreign workers. And there are other ways that we can think of, and which other countries have implemented to do that. That's
The gentleman at the back, please, because he was studying for so long.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Alif from Malay Economic Action Council, MTEM. Tan Sri Munir had given us many numbers to be understood by rakyat, and I also understand that all the outstanding numbers are very important to make sure the sustainability of our job and so on. My question is, how to make sure the happiness of the industrial player family or rakyat will be sustained in the future? Any indicator or result to share? Because economy is not only about figures and wealthy, but also about happiness. Thank you.
Happiness.
To all of you is that I have read the report of the Pricewaterhouse on Malaysia joining the group of the developed nations powerhouse in 2050. Today, the 20 nations, we will join in 2050 to be the 24th nation. Their calculation is that the next 4 till 50, that means about 20 years from now, or 30 years actually, we have 4% general growth. Now, when we talk about the Prime Minister's message just now, I heard what he says we are talking about protecting the country. I have not heard among all of you talking about how to promote the future of Malaysia as a global great nation.
As a
The global great nation. Because it's not pure economics. alone, because one of the things that we talk about the transformation, in this context today, you talk about knowledge-driven society and all the rest with it, all the corollary values, innovation, whatnot, is about knowledge and to know their future tomorrow. One of the things missing transformation program, which I mentioned to you, is the Science Technology Transformation Program. We talk about the GTP, we talk about the, what they call it, the GTP, the STP, Social Transformation Program, but we have not about science, technology at the center of government. Second point, to Professor Chan, as an economist, all of you, today, the debate is between the public and the private sector. When many of us here in this hall love the government to be less involved in the business of the country, and you look at those who sponsor this conference, none of the private sector have been interested to talk about the future of this country. All of them are owned by the government-linked companies. Where is the private sector? They put their money in their pockets and talk about the country so others will do for them. This is the question is that in America, we are a reverse role. America, the private sector moves the nation. In Malaysia, the government-led information. Now, if you want to be a global nation, we have to come together. We cannot take one and give the other and let the citizens be free. Because today, 24 nations control 80% of the wealth. So is Malaysia. So the small prize you're talking about, the SMEs, Mr. Chairman and my distinguished, that we need to lift them up, have true citizens of the country in terms of taking care of the destiny in their hands together. But if private sector does not want to play the role in Malaysia and the critical of the government, it is very unfair. Today we are now a crisscross because the London economics talks about all these things with due respect, but England is no longer a world economic power. Thank you very much.
Would you like to try that?
The way I see it is that we don't price things rightly. We don't price things rightly. So we are in areas where we shouldn't invest, we are investing. We should be here, we shouldn't be here, we are here. Because the real economics of it has not been analyzed. Because price distortion is rampant in the country because of the subsidy, because protection, that sort of thing. So it's so rampant so that you don't invest rightly, you don't price it rightly. So it affects every other thing in your life, including your consumption, including your income, your real value of income. This is all affected. I'll just give you an example. When the price of rice is so cheap abroad, our price is very expensive. So we have smuggling. When we have smuggling, we put police forces to check the smuggling. In the end, we pay more, and we grumble, we're grouchy about it. We're grouchy about it because you pay more. Things are very available very cheaply, and you misallocation resources. So these are the things. You have the price control. You have where we should charge more. For example, higher education, we charge less. So people just take it as a matter of right, as a matter of available facility. But that doesn't mean they get a job later. So all this sort of thing, I think, if only we can price things rightly, and also do some social cost benefit analysis as whether such projects or such policy be done, I think in the long run will lead to higher standard of living, less distortions in the marketplace, and more efficient resource allocation. In the end, you value the income that you have. This is my thing. But I know this may be wishy-washy things, wishy-washy things that we do. But I think moving forward, we must address this very basic concern so that we can enjoy our income, we can higher standard of living, and we get people who are led by real cost to the economy, real value to the economy. In the end, I think, and maybe people are happier. Maybe you get what you pay for, you get what you earn, you deserve it. But because this price distortion, you are not enjoying the standard of living you should get.
I don't know, for example, you go to a medical school in the government, if you got a place, it makes about 2,000 ringgit per semester. Outside there, 50,000 ringgit per semester. Government subsidizing 48,000. You know, why don't you just give scholarship, charge market rate, give scholarship to the poor? Isn't it the same? You know, you want to subsidize, assist the paddy farmers, you subsidize the input, not the price, because that led to distortion, led to smuggling, hundreds, you know, and the foreigners now about 3 to 4 million, about 3 to 4 million the foreign workers enjoying those things, enjoying those, and we got to consume or import even more, because now the additional 3 to 4 million mouths to be fed this country. I mean, these are the things distorting the prices, and therefore everybody is angry here, angry there, demonstrating here, demonstrating there. Something is not right, but they can express it and articulate it properly. I'm looking at just the fundamental. The price is strong, we value things differently, and all these things come out. In some forms or another, they come out. In some expression, I don't know. I'm not a political scientist, I know. But these are the things that's working below the scene, behind the scene, that affect our quality of life. Thank you.
Chairman.
I want to answer very briefly 2 issues. One is how do we enhance our trading nations or the status of our Malaysian economy internationally. The reality of the 21st century is that now there's a structural change in the whole global world, in the whole global economic market. Nations are grouped together as an economic hub. And now we find that in the financial sector, there are only 4 hubs in the world: London, New York, Singapore, and Hong Kong. For other countries to get into that, you are fighting against great odds, because there's really a big barrier of entry for financial services activities. So therefore, professionals will flow to those 4 major economic hubs. Technology, there are only 2 or 3. Boston, Silicon Valley, and might be Cambridge, Oxford area. These are the 3 major technology hubs in the world. It is very difficult for any other nation to try to compete. And Malaysia, what can we do in the midst of that? We have our natural resources, and there are some hubs that actually we can focus on. Oil and gas is one, but Singapore has beaten us to it by a few years, but it's still not, the barriers are not insurmountable. Sharia services is another one, which is a very small, which is a major financial subsector that we could focus on. There are other areas that we could focus on based on our natural resources, and it's up to really, those days maybe when the economic EPU plan, they plan on industries to extract. Now actually they should plan on the groups or the hubs that we should focus on, particularly oil and gas, oil palm, rubber-based activities, and all the other things which we have some natural advantage. Internationally, we could still attract a very important hub, that is medical services, because the quality of our doctors are just as good as Singapore. Our advantage is that our cost is half. Therefore, you find that a lot of Indonesians, a lot of Thais, a lot of Middle East upper class come to Malaysia and go back with a nose job done or with an enhanced figure and so on. Okay, now those are the things we can do. The second question I want to answer very briefly is the overcrowding of the economy by the public sector. We could ask a critical question. In Malaysia, are we still a seedbed for entrepreneurs? Are we still lacking in entrepreneurs? I think not. If you look at the number of successful, that was the second tier listing, there are lots of companies that have evolved over the last 20 years in areas of technology, in areas of medical science, in areas of logistics, in areas of transportation. I'm very aware of one acute example. Jobstreet.com was a company listed, created by Malaysians, a group of Malaysians, graduates from MIT, Mark Chang and so on. Listed 8 years ago, recently sold out for 1.7 B. And it's done by a guy who's just a graduate, engineering graduate. And there are many other examples of green pack and so on. So many other examples. What I'm trying to say is that there's no short of entrepreneurs. If I go around the neighborhood where I stay, Sierra Mas, many of them uneducated, but they operate business, they do businesses which none of us think of. One guy make a lot of money by sourcing Mercedes and BMW parts and selling those parts at half the cost to Mercedes Malaysia and surrounding areas. Where does he get his parts? From Brazil, from the third world countries, because he could get those at half the cost. So there are many, many niche markets which entrepreneurs in Malaysia, the unsung heroes, have done. And they will not be high profile because they can't speak proper English. They just get their way through, they get their things done, and come and enjoy the abalone occasionally with you if they are, if they have got time. So the punchline I want to say is that in Malaysia, we still have room for entrepreneurs at the individual level. Just that, please, Sandabi and all this, please don't overcrowd them too much. If we don't expect you to help them, but we don't expect you to overcrowd them. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Dato' Asma Bujang.
Thank you, Mike. I had actually wanted to ask this question to the Prime Minister, but since none of us from the floor had the chance to, I'll seek the opinion from the panelists. According to the Age newspaper, the government, or more correctly, taxpayers like us, have spent 25B to not compensate, but bail out, quote unquote, top up our national airline, MAS, over these years. Well, the latest report shows MAS has lost 1.2B. Now, we have also spent many, many billions ringgit to compensate the highly profitable highway toll concessionaires. Isn't it time for the government to have the guts to review, with a view to revoking this highly lopsided clause in the agreement with the highway concessionaires for the periodical toll hike? I seek your opinion. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I think I pose my question first because the panelists are taking time to reply because I don't want to be left out. Can I pose a question or you want me to after?
Okay, pose a question.
Okay. My name is A. Sivanandan. I'm coming from the Malaysian Trade Union Congress. Okay, let me talk about workers. Today, ordinary workers, the lower income workers, and the lower middle class are crying, are in economic pain. Just now, a participant talked about 900 ringgit from 450 to 900 ringgit. 900 ringgit after so many years of independence. It was left to market force. 900 has come into being. But that 900 in today's rising cost is not adequate. No doubt there is, by legislation, what Mr. Dato' Fong said, who was a former Minister of Human Resources. I liked his suggestion just now. Don't disturb the 900 ringgit of the workers. Do you know what the workers want? Economy for the workers is how much money can be put into their pocket for their family. That is their economy. So, the issue here is, let the government introduce some other incentives, but don't the minimum wage of 900 becomes a maximum wage. You must take into consideration, today, families are working, are doing two works, moonlighting, just to carry on with their family. And I share with you all today, if you go early morning to Johor, you can see young girls at 4 o'clock waiting for bus to go to Singapore. I have seen that kind of, because I traveled at that time to Johor. They're waiting for bus. Why they have to leave Johor? Why a big number of people are flocking to Singapore? Because of wages. Why can't Malaysia upgrade the wages?
You talked just now, Dr. Munir talked about the Timon. Yeah, if you talk to the housewives, they will say, I'm not interested in the figures. I'm interested in the daily affairs. So what I'm saying here is 900 today to MTUC, not adequate. Not adequate given the rising cost. So that needs to be reviewed. Secondly, just now a participant talked about productivity. I think studies have shown Malaysian workers are very productive. And productivity doesn't only involve workers, doesn't involve labor. It involves many other factors. But I don't know why everyone only focus on labor cost. I am talking here for the lower income group and the middle lower. So what I would say is 900 is not adequate. Secondly, within an organization, the income between the higher and the lower is very wide, very wide. Income inequality is widening. Job security, the right to livelihood is affected. We are talking about figures, but let us talk about practicality. We workers, they need protection. Protection, legislation must be enabling for them to have enough for them to sustain their family. Social ills today, because wife and husband have to work, they work for 12 hours. By the time they get back, not 12 hours work, 12 hours they leave, come back. These are practical things in life. Let us talk about reality today. What is the answer for this, given we are moving towards developed nation? But here, no doubt we are out of poverty, but we are trapped in another poverty, where salary is not adequate. Workers' jobs are not protected. I would like reality, and I would like to know from the panelists, let us talk about real issue. That is how much money you can put into the pocket of the ordinary workers. Thank you very much.
Can we respond to that, please? Okay, we have the question for the lady that will sum up the session. Okay, carry on.
For me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Puzi Hanim from Boulevard Engineering. What I'm going to say here may be relevant or irrelevant, but I hope that from a woman's point of view, it may be relevant. First, I like to comment on the moving the Malaysian economy forward, getting to the heart of the matter. This is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful tagline. But for the economy to move forward, not just Malaysians, everyone in Malaysia, foreigners, Malaysians of course, have to move as one, have to believe that we are one. We have to respect, accept, and celebrate differences until differences make no difference anymore. Hearts have to be healed. So my question is, does the government have a healing program to heal hearts, to create some goodwill, build bridges of goodwill for the nation to move forward? If there is, I'd like to know about it, but if there is not, let's start thinking about it. I may be able to play a little role in this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to respond to, I think, the first question on the bailout on Mars and other entities, and the other one on minimum wage, and the other one, do we have a healing program? Anybody want to respond to that?
Okay, I'll just take the Malaysia Airlines issue, okay? I think my friend, where is he? Wrote an article in The Sun, last week about this matter. Mars is a medium-sized company in a global industry which is getting more competitive. Okay. So it has its own internal weaknesses, structural ones, but it's also a global industry structure factor that operates against it. In my view, the best way for Mars to move forward is to look into mergers with other international airlines. You're a medium-sized airline, difficult industry, very competitive. You should look at mergers we had looked at mergers, undertook a study, identified 3 other airlines in order of preference, in order of best convergence, that we should actually merge with. Now, this is a question that Malaysians must think, especially government companies. The moment you entertain the thought of losing control, it becomes a problem. Right? You can have a shareholders agreement which sort of ring fences certain issues from sort of control, majority control, still not satisfied because you want control. When a small airline merges with a bigger airline, probably it will have 30%, 35% of the total company. And you have to accept the fact that's how it is. So if you have a blockage about moving forward that way, there's a problem. It can't happen, and you can't compete. And you have internal weaknesses too. I don't want to go into that, okay? I don't want to go into that. And so we must bear that in mind. I mean, many people also still talk about the AirAsia mass cooperation that went awry. It's quite a simple matter. I mean, it's a good idea, but it must be better constructed. You cannot have directors of competing companies sitting on the boards, public listed companies. There is conflict. Absolutely, there is conflict. There is competition law issues that also arise. The good thing could have been better structured if you had a holding company with 2 operating arms, and you can have any more other operating arms. You have maintenance, repair, overhaul arm, whatever it is. It should have been better structured, in line with good corporate governance and transparency. So that was the mistake, the structure of it. Yeah, there were all sorts of internal noises about it, but to me those were secondary. The most important thing is to get the corporate governance structure right, and it wasn't. So that's are my comments on Marx. Now, someone talked about healing, and then somebody else before her talked about anger, right? There is anger. You see, I've been working 45 years of my life. I've gone through a lot of stuff. There were things I couldn't afford when I started out. And this is a progression. And your starting salaries in those days compared to what people have now, completely different. Yes, costs have gone up, but even after taking into account of cost, discounting cost, standard of living has gone up. It has gone up. Now the question is, who is getting more than whom? I think that's the issue, isn't it? That's the main issue. And it is good, for example, that you have taxes, okay? You have direct tax, okay? You have corporate tax. Corporate tax is always very difficult because we're competing in a global economy where everyone is reducing the corporate tax. And what do? Right? You have direct tax, how far can you take it out? France took it up so high, now it's coming down again because then the economy was suffering. There is a balance that has to be struck, between taxes. Now, GST, which is actually a consumption tax, is better placed. It depends. You want to consume, you pay. Okay? And if things are zero rated, good. And then, education stuff, zero, it's good. But other things, see, the more you spend, the more you pay. The percentage, the 6% will be more of 100,000 than it is of 100, quite easily. So it is a better tax, you see, and it works better. And therefore, a bit of the anger can be dissipated. There's still other angers. I mean, you see all those cars outside Bangsar Shopping Center, it angers some people, I know it does. It makes some people grab ladies' handbags, and stuff. They're so bloody rich. I'll get some of it, But these are things we have to manage. It happens as economies grow, And so we must have anger control before we go healing process. And I think things are good for this country, but yeah, we have some problems. We have to manage them better by talking about it in a more civilized way. Let's not shout at each other, threaten this and threaten that, and go to court, not go to court. Newspapers which are one-sided, you put people's bloody pictures on the ground, you step on them, you spit on them. What is that kind of behavior? Let's calm down. Let's calm down. We're moving forward. Oh, no, anyway, I mean, it sounds political.
Okay, we are on live streaming, time permitting. So Tan Sri Sulaiman will respond on the minimum wages and poverty.
Thank you. Since the other two panelists have been standing, I may as well stand too. I just want to answer the question on the wages and poverty, that sort of thing. I think that 900 ringgit, at least the price for the moment. You know? And also, I think when the government formulates that, I'm not answering on behalf of the government here. I'm not the government. Maybe they have considered those factors into consideration between Sabah and Sarawak and Semenanjung. But what I wanted to say here is that it's important that nation enhance the role of trade unionism all over again. The role of trade unions, collective bargaining in a very accountable and responsible manner. We don't want, as Tan Sri Munir said, just now, running around being militant, taking to court everything, but very accountable, responsible trade unionism in the country, so that bring the share of the labor from total value added much, much higher. I think the Prime Minister was saying that about 30% goes in terms of wages. What about other countries, developed countries? Is it 40, 50? I wouldn't know. But if you do in-depth analysis of this, maybe we could earn much more than 30% of the total cake that goes to the workers. What I know is that in this country, the bulk of that value added goes into profit element and paying high wages, high salary compensation to the top management, but the workers may not get. But I stand to be corrected. It's good to do in-depth analysis, do either with ASLI or MIR, universities. What is a good share? Is it 30% good enough, or we should be getting much more? And how can we move forward the role of trade unionism together with the other democratization process in the country? I think that's a good way to address the issue. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have one last quick question, though. Okay.
My name is Majid Khan from Jacob. Well, I observed the discussion, which is very interesting. Malaysia is the largest trading nation in the world, one of the 10 or 11. Over the years, I think, in the past, in the 80s, 90s, there was tremendous amount of investment in low-paying jobs. And unfortunately, over the last 10, 15 years, we have not modernized the economy. What is happening today is we continue to subsidize the economy to an extent that we are no longer competitive the moment you remove the subsidy. The question here basically is, if you look at even countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, we are operating in Indonesia, we are operating here, we have some operation in the Philippines. Our problem basically is, in Indonesia today, they have removed the subsidy of fuel. They have removed the subsidy of gas. Yet, they survive. How long are you going to subsidize the industry? It is unbelievable. This country has survived industry just to compete. Compete for what? You are paying, using the taxpayer money to subsidize the industry. I give you one example, gas. You're selling gas to the industry at $16. Gas at international price is $50. How do you justify that? How long can you go on doing it? The issue is how long? I mean, you were a trading nation in the 70s, 80s. I think going forward, you're going to go down. Trade, manufacturing is going to lose. So I think the government have to relook at the whole thing. You see, if you remove the subsidy on gas, there's tremendous potential for the development of palm oil feedstock for producing power, producing energy. There are millions of tons is wasted. But because you continue to subsidize gas, nobody wants to invest in this thing. The moment you remove it, you will see all this investment come in. And you have a government policy where by 2020, I think 30% or whatever it is, that the energy will come from green energy. I don't think you're going to achieve whatever target you have unless you look at this thing. So I plead to the government to look at this thing properly. You cannot subsidize the industry for the benefit of the few with the taxpayers' money and continue to shout that you are the largest trading nation in the world. You put them on equal footing, they are nowhere. So I think if the government is serious, you want high income. You see, this subsidy is, you become dependent on it. You make no effort to improve, modernize the industry, reduce your labor costs, so that there will be no huge outlay of foreign exchange to pay for the local labor. And your local people will be paid higher. So I think this subsidy, I agree with Dato' Tan Sri Sulaiman that the government should seriously look and remove this subsidy completely. Let them compete. After all, you compete with the world. You are supposed to be a world trading nation. I agree in the past you are, but I don't think I agree today you are. All other countries remove subsidy on fuel, on gas, and you continue to subsidize. Thank you.
Okay, some quick responses before we close the seminar and dialogue. He mentioned your name.
No, I'm easy here. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. What is important can be done on a stage basis, transparent, so that people can adjust to the new pricing regime with the doing away of the subsidies. You know, it's very important. We got to compete based on efficiency. No, we should not be protecting the inefficient ones. You know, we must get, as I said now, get the price right. But behind that clause, getting the price right, all these things, we got our prices strong. So we lead to misallocation of resources, we lead to all sort of things, and finally, we lead to what we said just now. Do we need we have no happiness in society. Everything is wrong. I believe in that. By all means, subsidize the poor. By all means. If you want, if they, like I said, if they study medicine, they pay the market rate, but government give them scholarship, rather than you doing the price very, very low, and therefore has no value. So higher education here sometimes has no value. You just get a place, somebody give a scholarship to do it, but you may not got a job when you come out. You got jobless growth. This is what's happening. You got about 80,000, maybe 100 unemployed graduates now in this country. Why? It's so easy to get a place. The scholarship is waiting for you there. The loan is already waiting for you. And the PTPTN can be a bottomless pit. It can be a bottomless pit. It's very dangerous. Everybody getting and then not getting the job, who's going to pay for it? I mean, these are the things I'm saying. Get the price right. That's what I mean in the beginning when I said that. Thank you very much.
So you want to say something? No, okay. Thanks for the input, Dato'. We come to the end of the session now. But in summing up, just shortly, our three speakers will surely be the first to acknowledge that there's no quick fix solution to the problems and challenges confronting the economy. But then again, when we present positive GDP numbers, record investment figures, and we feel good about improved ratings, what is most important is to ensure that such good numbers translate into improved benefits for the people of Malaysia. And I think that the Prime Minister has given that assurance this morning in his keynote address. So thank you, and I pass it over to Sharina and Gerard.
Thank you very much, Mikhail.
Terima kasih Encik Mikhail Raj Abdullah, Pengarang Perkhidmatan Berita Ekonomi Bernama, dan kami mempersilakan moderator dan panelis untuk bergambar di hadapan di pentas utama. Tan Sri Dr. Munir Majid, Pengerusi Bank Muamalat dan Fellow Pelawat Kanan London School of Economics. Tan Sri Dr. Fong Chan On, Pengerusi Star Publications yang juga merupakan bekas Menteri Sumber Manusia dan bekas Dekan Fakulti Malaysia, bekas Pengerusi Maida. Terima kasih diucapkan para panelis kita. Dan dipersilakan Datuk Yong Soo Hyong, Pengurus Besar Bernama, untuk menyampaikan ucapan penutup.
Once again, we'd like to thank our panelists for helping us with the summit this morning. And we'd now like to invite the General Manager of Bernama, Datuk Yong Soo Hyong, to say a few words.
Okay. Salam sejahtera dan salam satu Malaysia kepada Datuk Abdul Rahman Sulaiman, Pengerusi Bernama, Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, Chairman of ASLI, Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Michael Yeo, CEO of ASLI, Tan Sri, Datuk, my colleagues from Bernama, my friends from ASLI, ladies and gentlemen. This conference comes at a time when 30 million Malaysians are concerned about the state of the economy and how things are going to affect them, and especially their pockets. I believe it is a good time for Malaysians, right from the administrators to the rakyat, to take stock on how things are going to affect them. We have heard a lot of suggestions and comments this morning on how to move the country forward. We have heard what we should do and what we should not do. We should not allow these suggestions to just remain in this hall. We should take stock, review, and see what is the best way forward to tackle the problems. And especially what we have heard a lot from the people is that we should not allow the inefficient crybabies or inefficient players in our economy to get away. We should actually tackle this and lessen the unhappiness among the rakyat about these inefficient players, these rent seekers, and heal the hearts by taking more pragmatic measures. What we have heard this morning are certainly food for thought and certainly a cause for action by us Malaysians. We have been told that we should be more innovative and we should effect greater productivity. We should tweak the education system. We should help SMEs put more money. We also told to what we can do to put more money in the people's pockets through hard work and how to heal hearts. There is also a comment by the Prime Minister for the silent majority to be more audible. As co-organizer, we are very gratified with the terrific feedback and response. I'm sure that these suggestions will not fall into deaf ears. The media ought to amplify them. This summit and dialogue would not have been possible if not for our sponsors who have come in to lighten our financial burden. To them, I say a big thank you. I would also like to say a big thank you to my colleagues for helping out ASLI to make this summit a success. I would also like to record a special thanks to Tan Sri Michael Yeo for making my dream come true to organize a conference of this magnitude. All in all, I believe that the keystone of success for this nation is all-round support from the rakyat to turn Malaysia into an economic powerhouse despite the bombs and potholes in our journey towards Vision 2020 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yong Soo Hyong, the General Manager of Bernama.
Terima kasih Datuk Yong Soo Hyong, Pengurus Besar Bernama, dan sekali lagi dengan berbesar hati kami merakamkan setinggi-tinggi ucapan terima kasih kepada para penaja, tetamu kehormat, panelis jemputan dan semua yang telah terlibat dalam menjayakan sidang kemuncak ekonomi kebangsaan dan dialog bersama-sama Perdana Menteri hari ini.
From Bernama and ASLI, we'd like to thank you very much for making your...
Berjumpa lagi.